Give me a kiss.
No, I don't want no kisses from you.
Give me a kiss.
Your microphone is too far away.
Give me a kiss.
Your microphone is too far away.
Give me a kiss.
I'm not giving you a kiss right now.
Oh, God.
You have to fix your microphone. It has to be up close because you want a soft voice. And I would put it on this side, but because your head is going to be turned this way. Yeah. 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 That's what I would do.
Can I have a kiss then?
Yes. That's because you were being obedient. So guys, so y'all, my wife has been practicing being disobedient for almost 25 years. And what's problematic with that is that there are times where I'm trying to go one way,
Really?
and she doesn't want to listen, nor does she want to follow. And the leader in me hates that because I don't have a problem following her. The problem is that ain't always mutual. Where's your ring?
It's right there. Where's yours?
Oh snap!
Where's your ring?
I don't have it. It's okay. Welcome to Behind Closed Doors. We'll be back right after this. Anyway, so guys, we're back this week and kind of want to talk a little bit about, pick up where we left off last week. And last week we talked about this idea of opposites attract.
If opposites attract, why they get on your daggone
Why,
nerves?
after all, listen, hopefully today we can help you guys to get closer together by recognizing that your differences are really your superpowers. They're not your weaknesses. So let's talk a little bit about that. When we got married 25 years ago, talking about differences, January 30th, 2024 will mark 25 years in a row.
Lord help us.
And yeah, Lord help us. And one of the things that I realized then, Sheri, was we were very different people in a lot of ways.
What were some ways we were clearly
different? Listen, first of all, and I know it's going to start the comments running. Y'all can start it now. I was trifling. That's what my mother would have called it. That's what, you know, the aunties in my family would have.
Can you define trifling?
So for those that are not familiar with the term trifling.
Trifling, which I don't know how to spell. T-R-I-F-L-I-N.
I don't even know if it's a word for real.
Trifling.
But your man did not care about his surroundings. I didn't care about having a tidy apartment. I didn't care about having a tidy or a well put together closet. Now, my car, that was a completely different thing. My car was absolutely spotless, stayed clean inside out. You wasn't gonna find, matter of fact, you couldn't eat in my car if you weren't a certain kind of eater. Why that didn't translate into my living situation,
your residence,
I don't know. But when Sheri and I met, y'all, it was bad. I didn't have a lot, but what I did wasn't, it wasn't, you know, so to go in my closet, for example, is to find complete disorder. Complete disorder.
Complete.
From dirty clothes being randomly thrown around to clothes not being folded up, certainly clothes not being hung up. Some were that I hadn't worn in a while, but you were very, very different. Very different. I'm going over your house and.
So you didn't value tidiness.
No, not at all. I valued being clean personally. Like you wasn't gonna catch me out in the street smelling bad or anything like that. I wasn't unkempt. I mean, I was a professional. I went to work and I wore a suit. And
your house just looked like
my house
a tornado
was
hit it.
Absolutely. And if you would have judged me based on that house, you would have said, nah, man. I remember the first time you came over,
gosh.
you was like, what in the world? And to be fair,
No, you didn't. Yeah.
I wasn't living there day to day as much by the time you and I met because I was staying a lot with my sister. It was closer to work. I had a roommate at the time, and he was at his girlfriend's a lot.
So y'all was both slobs.
So we was both slobs in a lot of ways because we wasn't there, right? Wasn't like that was our spot. Like we was
I'll say
operating
this.
out of
I
the
won't
spot.
say that you guys were slobs. I think that you guys just did not. You didn't value your home. You didn't value
Yeah, we didn't
the
put a lot of
appearance of your home because, like you said, you both were busy. You weren't there a lot,
right?
And so therefore, you did not take pride in your home.
That's the word I think I'm looking for. I didn't take
I'm
pride
being
in that.
Yeah.
Because I took pride in some other stuff.
Right, because to meet you outside of your home,
outside my house,
I mean,
boy,
like I said, it's not like you were not.
I got to get
unkempt.
to know
I
this
mean,
dude.
You were very well put together. Yeah, you were very well put together. You were very well kempt.
You keep using that word.
Because I don't want people to think you were just like nasty.
Right.
You weren't that. Whereas for me,
well groomed,
yes,
smell good,
yeah, all that. Whereas for me, I valued a tidy home. I took pride in my home, no matter where I lived, no matter, when we met, I was an administrative assistant. I wasn't making a lot of money. I was living in an apartment, had been living in apartments as a single mother. But no matter where I lived, no matter what level of housing I lived in, I made my home into a house.
Right.
I took pride in that. You would come in, everything was very well put together. I took pride in that.
No dishes in the sink.
Yeah, all that stuff.
And
so, although we had different values when it came to, as far as that was not something that we had a shared value. We didn't have the same values.
For sure.
We did not share values in that. But there were some areas that we did have shared values. And I think that when couples get together, I think oftentimes we are drawn to people. We talked last week about opposites attract. Mm-hmm. But also the thing that attracts you to people oftentimes is your interest. You have shared interests. But I don't think that we take the time to step back and say, do we have shared values?
And I want to make sure so today, y'all, we want to drill down on that because I think a lot of things, when we think back 25 years and we ask ourselves, what were some of the things that we did that kind of got us here? And not barely. So we're not the couple that can say, we've had a lot of ups and a lot of downs, but we made it. No, Sheri and I are best friends. Now, when we say ups and downs, it primarily is going to be in a financial space, right? Trying new things, working in ministry, all of the ebbs and flows that go with that. But in terms of us, I think that we've been solid from day one. And we've had our challenges, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't a will we make it or not. It is how do we get through
the situation.
Does that make sense? But I think going back, babe, it was, now I look back on it, you and I had a lot of mutual values that even though we would not have called them that, it transcended our interests, because there were a lot of things that I could say, quite frankly, we didn't necessarily have mutual interests around.
I love dogs. He didn't.
I couldn't stand dog. Why would you have a dog in your house? When I grew up, dogs were supposed to stay outside, bro. You chained them up to the tree so they don't jump the fence, and you had a dog house. You see how she looking at me? Because this is disrespectful, right? So I didn't value animals and things like that, and I think that wasn't an interest of mine.
It wasn't a value. It wasn't a value.
And so I want people to kind of understand that I think that if you begin to dissect what is it that we value, and is there any mutualism in that?
Right.
Because if it's not, from the onset, you can kind of tell if this thing is going to turn out to be a thing or if this is going to implode. And I think that that's where a lot of people, particularly beginning in relationships and marriage and dating and all that, we focus on the interest. Girl, he like dancing, I like dancing. He like, traveling, I like, and it's like, nah. Because that stuff can be really short-lived if you're not really careful.
Right, and I think for us, one of the things that and I don't know if we would have called this that then, but one of the things that did draw us together, we both we both valued growth and personal development. We both were in a phase in our lives.
For sure.
When we were both focused on personal growth.
Yeah.
And we valued that. We valued that in other people around us, that they were growing, that they were evolving. And that was something that was a shared value that we had.
Yeah.
We had some different interests, then we had some similar interests. But I think that value has been the foundation of everything that has come, from that. I think that was the foundation, was that personal growth, that personal development was that shared value that served as the core. Then from that, I would say that we both valued relationships. Now, at that point in time, we probably would have said it differently.
Oh, for sure.
I valued my relationship with my daughter. I had come out of 2 failed marriages, and I valued, if I were going to get in another relationship, there were certain things I valued that it was going to be a healthy relationship. And so I was working on me in order to be able to have that type of relationship. You valued relationships, but you would have probably said for you it was, well, I don't know if you would say you valued relationships at that point in time.
I think I would have just called it, I was just a huge people person.
Right.
I liked people.
Right.
If I was on a team like at work, I valued when the team clicked. If we was the crew that hung out after work, like that's probably the camaraderie of being in relationship. And I think that whenever I was in relationship and that wasn't there, like there was no energy, there was no connection, at that point it became something and I'm like, I don't know if I'm really interested in this like that.
Right. I had an interest and a value in helping people.
Yeah, for sure.
I was always that friend.
It could have been
old
people, young people.
Me,
it didn't matter.
And I would be able to help guide them through things. And that was something that I had a interest in, something I valued, being able to help people. And so that was something else that we were able to link to. But I think that, like, oftentimes in relationships, we don't focus on the values, we just focus on the interest. So interest, we both were Dallas Cowboys fans. When you start a relationship with just the interest and you don't delve down into what your values are, that can be shaky.
I laugh because I think when you say delve down, so I'll use that example. Sheri is from Washington, D.C. She's a Cowboys fan. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm a Cowboys fan. But when you delve down into why we are fans, you begin to find those mutual values at that particular point. So for you, it was about your independence because you grew up in a home where you felt very much controlled in a lot of ways. And if your dad was a Redskins fan at the time and your family, you was the rebellious type, right? Well, for me, rebellion looked like walking to the beat of your own drum. That was very much me. I say that to say that a lot of times, I really think that, when we look at coming up on 25 years, babe, we knowingly or unknowingly really honed in on doing things that fostered deepening our mutual values. And I think that caused us to be able to navigate through tough times that we didn't know was coming. And it's like, no, we're solid. We're connected in ways that, like, whether we're living good or bad, we gonna be good. Does that make sense?
Right. And it's funny now, we're approaching 25 years now, and just in us having this conversation, I'm just really thinking about it. Through everything that we've been through, all the ups and downs, all the different changes in life, the losses, the moves, the relocations, all those things, the thing that has remained the same is our value of growth.
I agree.
That has never changed. That's one thing that even when we've gone through our rough seasons, the thing for me that helped me to stay, to be totally honest, was I was seeing you trying to evolve. So I saw that you were working on yourself. I saw that you were trying to find your way. you've never been one of them people like, this is just who I am and this is just it.
Right.
No, it's like, okay, let me do some inner work. Let me look introspectively. Okay, these are some areas I need to grow in. Let me do that work, whether you were going to therapy, whether you were reading books, whether you were, being mentored by somebody. You were always looking to better yourself. And I'd like to think for myself, it's been the same. I've grown, I've evolved, and I'm continuing to evolve. Now, in a relationship, if you both don't have that shared value, that can create challenges, because if you're the type of person that wants, this is who I'm married, I want you to stay this way, that's going to create a problem for you if I'm growing, if I'm evolving. Even in relationships with family.
Yeah.
If they are accustomed to you being one way and you're growing and you're evolving, it's going to be hard for them to accept that if they don't think or they don't value personal growth and personal development.
Yeah, I think that, and we talk about this a lot in our coaching communities, that whole growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And Sheri and I very much both have growth mindsets. We are adaptable in a lot of ways and willing to change. I think about couples who are, for a lack of better terms, but you're unequally yoked. Right? You are not on the same page. Mm-hmm. And you're two extreme ends of the same spectrum. Oftentimes what you will find is that one is fighting to get the other to be more like them, simultaneously with the other one fighting to get you to be more like them. And I think the trick or the secret for us has been, what is that middle ground? Where can we come in the middle? How do we gravitate toward mutualism as opposed to trying to now make you become something you're not? Because that's the thing that I think never works. Mm-hmm. And I think that unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that until they're resenting each other. It's like, you can't change a person. But what we have found is that as we are willing to change, it generally has a positive effect on the other person. They're willing to make an adjustment if they see you doing it. But babe, I'm excited that one of the areas that you and I chose to grow in was the area of communicating.
Yes.
And a lot of times people hear, communication is key. Well, what does that mean really? I hear people say, what you got to have God, and you're like, what does that really mean? And I think that it's the principles that drive that. Yes. So for example, if communication fundamentally is based on transmission and reception,
it's both parts.
It's both parts. It's not one or the other.
Right.
Then that means I become concerned that if I'm transmitting something your way, and it doesn't promote change, or it's not causing you to move differently, or it's not causing you to, and you ever talk to somebody and you say something and their response is clearly something, they didn't hear you, or they didn't know what you said because their response didn't match what you asked. That was something that you and I kind of figured out early on and figured out how to wait. And by the way, when you come work with us as coaches, you'll figure that out.
Right. No, I was laughing because I was just thinking yesterday went to go celebrate a friend of our birthday here in Panama, and you say happy birthday in Spanish, Feliz cumpleaños. Cumpleaños.
Ños. The N-Y, not N-A.
Cumpleaños.
Ños, right.
We were recording a video for him saying happy birthday, Feliz cumpleaños. And our other friend who was in the car was like, no. That's not what that's saying. That's not what that's saying.
You're saying happy anus.
That's not what we were trying to say.
That is not what we were trying to communicate.
So if we weren't concerned about what we were saying, the reception of what we were saying,
then
how it was going to be received, we could have said, well, I transmitted it, I said it.
Ooh, babe, and here I gotta stop you, because I think the thing is, all too often in relationships, we'll take they knew what I meant. Did they? Mm-mm. Or y'all understand, it don't take all that. Really, does it? Because I think that, particularly in the confines of relationship, if I'm saying to you, I need to spend quality time with you, that is me communicating a need.
Right.
I'm not just making that up.
Right.
Well, in this case, it would be you saying that to me, because I'm not the quality time guy.
Right.
But if I say, babe, I need us to be more physically affectionate towards one another.
And I appreciate it. But in regard to, we're talking about how this connects to your values.
Yeah.
So our value is personal development, personal growth. If I did not value well, I'll say it for you because you were a communicator when we got together. If you didn't value personal growth and personal development, it would have annoyed you. You would not have had the patience with me as I was evolving in my ability to communicate. You would have been like, just say it. Just get it out. You would not have been able to be patient with me as I've grown in my communication and been able to watch me and see me evolving and see me doing the work to become a better communicator.
But babe, I can also say that part of my patience came in your willingness to do work, being teachable and allowing me, because that was an area that I was better at.
Right.
You followed my lead. You allowed me to teach you how to become a better, more effective communicator. To know me is to understand I am the guy that, like, I need us to be able to communicate clearly.
Right.
I don't do ambiguity. I don't do hints.
Right, and it's funny you said it because I didn't grow up that way. I grew up in a household where people didn't talk. It was going to be, you're going to pick up whatever you pick up, the innuendo, you're going to assume.
Or you not.
Or you not. They just not going to communicate. And so I realized, as I've grown, as I've evolved, as for me, communication has become something that I value now. Clear communication is something that I value. I realized that, for, some of my family, that's not something that they value.
Yep.
That doesn't make them bad. It doesn't make them less than me. It's just different. I've grown in a different direction in that particular area, whereas I value communication. I'm like, have the conversation, talk to me.
Right.
Whereas I realize that for some people, that's just not where they are. But because we don't have that shared value, that creates some friction. We talked about friction last week. Now, in the confines of a marriage, you got to learn how to work through that friction. Now, with other family members, sometimes that friction, you may have to put boundaries up because it becomes unhealthy. But I think that knowing what people value and being able to respect each other's values is key. And I think for us, like you said, you were willing to, your patience, because I was willing to do the work, because you saw me working on it. Had I not been working on it, that would have been a challenge for you because that was something that you valued. And it wasn't like I got into the relationship and was like, ooh, I got to learn how to communicate or we're not going to be together. Out of my own frustration, from not being able to be understood,
being misunderstood,
right? Because like I said, you don't pick up on innuendos, you don't pick up on clues. He's not reading my mind, and he's not going to assume. And that's the other thing. When you get in a relationship, you got to realize this person doesn't think like you. Whereas with your family, oftentimes there's the same mindset about a lot of things, and so they will pick up on things.
Right.
A lot easier because you're all from the same mindset.
It's more of a context clue situation with your family. Like people will say stuff like, my dad never told me he loved me, but I know he did. Well, how can you say that? Because of how he moved or the way he showed you. Or ways that you could say, nah, he doesn't say it, but I know my father loves me. Well, when you meet people, you don't know that.
Right.
How would you know that, right? Unless
they tell you. The words out of their mouth.
Are you hearing the words that's coming out of my mouth? No, because you ain't saying it. We used to always, with our kids, I don't know if y'all have been through this, your kids come home and they're trying to learn to communicate. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
You know what I'm saying?
I don't know what you mean. You ain't
no,
said nothing
you haven't
yet.
said it yet. What are you talking about? Of course I don't know what you
mean.
Well, you know what? No, I really don't. So, and maybe that's technical for you guys, but what we have found, particularly not only in our lives, but the people we get to work with professionally as relationship development specialists and coaches, y'all, this is critical. And it's an actual skill set that can be learned.
Right. And so, and I'll go to, I was married 2 times before Glenn, and hindsight is 20/20, but looking back, I realized my lack of communication was part of the detriment of both of those relationships. Not that I want to go back at all, but I realized that had I had healthy communication skills then, even being able to communicate things that I was unhappy with, I would have been able to communicate it. Versus, just shutting down, not communicating, acting out.
Right.
in certain ways as a way to express how I felt versus using my words. And I think that oftentimes when we grow up in dysfunctional situations, we grow up and we're not, for lack of a term, made to communicate.
Ooh, that's good.
Because
That's good.
people just will live off of assumptions.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that we do ourselves a disservice if we don't learn how to communicate truly how we feel, because then you wind up, you hold a lot of stuff in, it's pent up, you hold that stress in your body, it creates other problems that can affect you emotionally, mentally, as well as physically. So I think that we do ourselves a disservice when we don't learn how to communicate.
Yeah.
And then once we learn how to communicate, our job is to help those around us.
Yep.
To learn how to hear us, how to receive our messaging.
And with that, guys, we got to invite you guys to come hang out with us in our community. We have created a community. It's called MAPS, Marriages and Parenting Successfully in Life and Business. We specialize in helping couples who are building businesses together, ministries. Maybe you're trying to grow the corporate ladder or whatever the case may be, and you're just trying to figure this out without losing your family. We know what it's like to lose a whole family over a lack of skill. I don't know if you can relate, but that is not a good feeling. I never want to be in that space again. And if you're interested, just check out the description below, a bunch of links and different ways that you can connect with us, whether it's workshops that we're doing, maybe joining our actual community. Sheri and I have written 9 books between the two of us. And so we have made it our business to grow in this space. And coming up on 25 years in a row, I guarantee you that this is why we made it. It is not because of our love for each other. It ain't because we put God first. Listen, let me give you a news flash. God was first in my previous marriage for 12 years in a row, and we still got divorced. You know why? Because I didn't know how to appropriate those principles, and there was nobody actually helped me boost my skills of being able to communicate and connect. So click the links in the descriptions below. We're going to come back next week behind closed doors. Our goal is just to have regular conversations around marriage and parenting and helping you guys understand that you do not have to lose, because at the end of the day, you cannot get to any place of significance by yourself, because we all need some help. Y'all be good, and let's talk on the next episode.
If you guys have any topics or any subjects that you'd like us to discuss here on Behind Closed Doors with the Brooks, please put it in the chat, and we will try to address those issues as soon as possible.
Like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you guys on the next episode.